A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
The greatest story ever told. We present Matthew the Publican, a drama based on an event described in the 9th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Matthew, an event in the greatest life ever lived. Of Capernaum, and in the town, the house of the publican Matthew, for today is an unusual day. For on this day, Matthew is not concerned with collecting taxes, nor with accounting to the Romans for the monies which he has collected for them from his own people. Instead, this is a day of happiness for Matthew, or at least it should be. For now, he talks to the lovely young girl who is his niece. And to judge from the look on Matthew's face, it is a pleasant subject they talk about.
Believe me, Deborah, nothing in the world could have made me as happy as this news about you and Daniel. I want you to know that I've been looking forward to this day. I've been setting aside money for it. Your wedding garments will be the finest that have ever been seen in Capernaum, and now the feast itself must be lavish. I wish your wedding day to be an event that you will never forget. Of course, we cannot expect that there will be many people there.
Please, Uncle, don't say anything.
You would try to spare my feelings. Well, it is time this was talked about. Time that one of us said what needs saying. There will be very few guests at your wedding because of me. After all, what am I? A publican. One who collects taxes from my own people to turn over to the Romans. Shall I expect that they will like me for...
Uncle, I wish you wouldn't talk this way.
If I can't talk to you, to whom shall I talk? Somehow, Deborah, if I was sure that you understood, it would help. If you understood what it was like. There was a plague, and your father and mother had both died. And suddenly I was left with a niece who needed food and shelter, and I had no other way to provide for you except to become a publican. It was not what I wanted, but it was the only way that would make it possible.
I know, Uncle. Because of me, your life has been ruined.
Oh, no, it wasn't your fault. But sometimes I get to wondering, is the man's life ruined as long as he's alive and there is hope that he can change?
Uncle?
I've thought about it often. Now I will do it.
What, Uncle?
Become a free man, free of the Romans, free of the hatred of my own people.
But can you?
Now that you're being married, I can get along on less. I will find some new way of earning my livelihood. I will take any other kind of work that I can find. Now, surely that should convince people, and I'll do it now. You'll see, Deborah, before your wedding day, we will have many new friends, and on your wedding day, you will have many guests. You will have nothing to be ashamed of.
Uncle, are you sure it can be done?
It can be done. In fact, I will go to see the Roman commander at once.
Matthew, don't stand there mumbling. If you've something to say, come out with it. What's troubling you?
Caius, sir, I would like to explain...
Look, Matthew, if there's something wrong with your accounts of the tax monies, that's the one thing that can't be discussed. Your accounts are either right or wrong. There are no explanations that Rome would accept.
The accounts are right down to the very last coin, sir.
Then what are you trembling about?
Sir, I have served you Romans faithfully for a great many years.
And you've been paid well for it.
Oh, I don't deny that. I don't deny that it was for the money that I did it.
Well, then?
Sir, I wouldn't want the Roman authorities to think that there's anything wrong, but I might as well say it. I wish to resign from my office.
A tax collector for the Romans resign.
This is no laughing matter to me. It's a very serious step.
Oh, there's no doubt of that. We'll examine everything you own at once.
But why? I've been honest in my dealings with you.
Matthew, you must know that you'll never get another position.
Oh, but I will.
Indeed. Well, if you do, you'll be the first man who's collected taxes for the Romans and been rewarded with a job by your own people. No, I don't believe it. What's more, I think that you've been systematically stealing money from the tax collections, so that now you can afford to resign and never work again.
No, sir, you don't understand it. It's my niece. It's the wedding, that's what...
Niece, wedding? Man, are you out of your head?
Please, sir, please listen to me and try to understand. Every day for years now, you've seen me at my place by the roadside collecting the road taxes and carefully noting in the scrolls the amount of the collections, every single coin accounted for. How can you accuse me of cheating?
I'll say one thing for you. If you have been cheating, you've been very skillful at it.
But I haven't been cheating. Please understand. I've spent my life giving her everything that she wanted. And now in this most important time of her life, I realize that the one thing I haven't been able to give her is a good name. And so I'm resigning. For her sake and for my own. I'll show everyone that I'm not a Roman sympathizer at heart.
So, fine appreciation for what we Romans have done for you.
What you've done for me, you've made me an outcast. No one will speak to me. No one will associate with me. That's what working for the Romans has done for me. They think of me as a traitor.
And now you're going to change all that, eh?
Yes. I can get along on little now that my niece is leaving. I'll find some kind of work that will give me enough to live on.
Good. Very good, Matthew. I'm glad to see that you've got the courage and the strength to take such a drastic step in order to reestablish yourself in the community. Of course, if you should change your mind and decide that this is the work you like best after all, well, we'll always have a place waiting for you here.
I'll never come back here.
Of course. But your position will still be waiting for you. After all, it's the least we can do for our friends.
What do you want here? I've done nothing wrong. Besides, your interest is in the road collections. You can't come prying into my affairs. Or have you been promoted to the collection of other taxes? Samuel, I've not come here to discuss taxes with you. You haven't? Oh, good. No, Samuel, it's a far different matter that brings me. You see, I need help. Indeed. Well, what is it? What's wrong? Samuel, for a long time now, I've been doing work for the Romans. Well, I know that. Of course, and although you don't sympathize with what I've been doing, believe me, there were reasons. A man doesn't do things like this without compelling reasons, but all that has changed now. I'm no longer a publican. How nice. But what's that to do with me? Well, Samuel, say what you will about the Romans, you must know how exacting they are. I've had fine training. I can keep records and books as accurately as anyone. Well, that must be a great satisfaction to you, I'm sure. Now, the point of my visit here is this. Samuel, would you give me a position? Matthew, I have no use for any additional help. But everyone knows how much your business has prospered in the last few years. Surely you could make room for one more man, a capable man? Yes, my business has prospered, and I intend to see that it goes on prospering. And one way to make sure is not to hire any friends of the Romans. But I'm no friend of theirs, I tell you. There never was a publican in this land who was considered anything but a traitor. And I don't associate with traitors, nor do I give them work. Is that clear? But I've changed, Samuel. Changed? The thorns on a rose never change, neither do traitors. Now you'll do me a great favor by leaving here at once. After all, I have my reputation to think of. You must understand. I'm sure you will.
Understand what, Matthew?
Well, your caravans carry produce for the Roman armies. You do a great deal of business with them.
And if I do?
Well, then surely you must understand the position that I'm in now.
Make yourself clear, Matthew. What is it? Is there something wrong? Or is it that you've got some bit of secret news that you're willing to dispose of for a price?
I've never been a spy.
Then what brings you here?
No one will believe me, but I think that you will understand. Because, after all, you did practically the same thing.
What did I do?
You worked for the Romans, too, and since you...
Wait. Hold on a moment, Matthew. Are you attempting to put me in the same class with you?
Well, after all, we both earn our livelihoods working for the Romans.
You know, Matthew, I don't feel flattered being put in the same class with you, so if that's all you've come to say, get out.
Please, Aram, a job is what I mean. I can work hard for you. I can relieve you of a great many details which will give you more time for other profitable business.
I'm sorry, Matthew.
And you can trust me, Aaron. I'm honest. No one has ever denied that.
No one ever discusses the honesty of traitors. It's like talking about rainfall in the desert. I'm sorry, Matthew.
And I thought you would understand.
Then you were mistaken. Now, let's get one matter straight. I work for the Romans, that's true. But I take money from them. You take money from your own people for the Romans. There's a difference, Matthew. A very big difference.
And you don't think a man can change?
I don't even care. I'm in a pretty delicate situation as it is, Matthew. I don't take risks for anyone. To hire you would be such a risk. Sorry.
Michael, you must understand.
Whenever someone tells me I must understand, I know immediately that it's something others don't understand. If you come seeking a favor, Matthew, you must know that there's little I can do.
You mean there's little you can do for me, don't you?
If you choose to phrase it that way.
Michael, you're a respected man in this community. A word from you can mean a great deal.
A word, some sort of magic word?
Michael, have you ever known me to do a single dishonest act in all my life?
What's the purpose of such a question, Matthew?
If you vouch for me, then I might be able to get a job. Everyone respects you and your word. Just tell them that I'm honest and decent.
Matthew, let me give you a little insight into a great secret of getting along with people. If you would have people respect your word, don't give it too freely.
What do you mean?
Why do people regard my word so highly? I'll tell you why. Because they've never been disappointed in what I've said. And again, why? Because I never give my word on anything or anyone. Is that clear?
But I know of several occasions when you've vouched for people.
Matthew, how can I vouch for you when you call me a liar?
But I didn't call you a liar.
You didn't use the word straight out, but you did contradict me. You see, Matthew, it's quite impossible for me to vouch for someone like you, much as I'd like to.
You wouldn't like to at all. You're toying with me when I'm in trouble. I need help and you don't want to give it to me. And inwardly you're laughing at me. You're being cruel, Michael.
Perhaps your friends, the Romans, would be kinder to you. Matthew, get out of here.
Oh, Deborah, I've tried.
Oh, no, Uncle.
It's as though I've been a thief. No one trusts me. No one believes. You tell me, Deborah, have I been a traitor? Have I been a friend of the Romans? Every day for years now you've seen me, heard me speak. Have I ever uttered one word that can be interpreted as treason toward our people?
Oh, no, Uncle, no.
How can people be so cruel?
Uncle.
Yes, Deborah.
Maybe Daniel's father could help.
No, it wouldn't be right. I don't want to jeopardize your happiness, never that.
But if Daniel is willing to marry me, surely his father should be willing to be understanding about you.
He's the one man I won't go to. No, Deborah, when you marry, I want you to cut your ties with me. I want you to try to forget that I'm your uncle.
After all you've done for me, this whole thing is really my fault in a way.
Why? Because you wanted a wedding like other girls had. There's nothing to apologize for.
You took the job in the first place to earn money to take care of me. You tried to leave it because you thought it would help you, and Uncle, I don't deserve you.
No. We won't have tears. In this life, when you make one mistake, you're finished. There's no new beginning. No one wants to understand or forgive. Well, I don't want you to do the same thing that I did, so you will marry Daniel. You will live your own life. Your children must never know about me.
You won't even come to see it?
Shame is one possession I'm selfish about. I'll share it with no one.
And your reward for all the years of sacrifice will be living alone the rest of your life? That isn't fair.
Nor is it fair to attach this stigma to your children yet unborn. You know the Roman was cleverer than I gave him credit for. He knew what he was talking about. I'll go back. I'll take the job that's waiting.
Matthew, so you're back. How nice to see you again.
Please, sir, don't be too cruel. I'm a beaten man. Don't make it worse.
So you've changed your mind, Matthew. Back. How nice to see you again.
Please, sir, don't be too cruel. I'm a beaten man. Don't make it worse.
So you've changed your mind, Matthew. Is it a job you're thinking of?
Well, you said it would be waiting for me.
Oh, so I did.
Well, shall I begin at my usual place?
Your usual place, yes. But not at your usual fee.
But, sir...
You see, there were some things you said just before you left that I didn't like, so we'll take something off for that.
But the work will be the same.
Only the pay will be different. Now, do you want the job under those conditions, or don't you?
You know I have no alternative.
Good. And if you make any mention to anyone of this little change in your remuneration, it will go hard with you. Do I make myself clear?
I think I know what you mean, Caius.
Oh, well, I'll go out by the road and take your accustomed place and begin your collecting. And be careful today.
If you think I deliberately make any mistakes...
Oh, I didn't mean that. It just happens that there are great crowds passing on the road today. That man, what do they call him? The master. He's supposed to be coming this way, and the roads are clogged with people wanting to see him. So things will be more difficult than usual today.
The master?
Matthew, you listen to me.
I wonder.
So, you turned to him, too.
I didn't say that, did I?
You didn't have to say it. Just let one of your people get into trouble, you go to him for help. Tell me, Matthew, all those things they say about you, about curing people, raising the dead, all that. Is it true?
I've heard, as you've heard, but I haven't seen. Yet somehow I feel that maybe it is true.
Matthew, if you have any ideas that he can help you, forget them. None of your people would have anything to do with the likes of you, least of all such a prophet as the master. Now get on with your job, Matthew.
You'll be allowed to move on, so stand back, wait your turn. Roman, please! Bring up! Roman, stand back! No more of your comments. You think I do this because I want to?
What is it, Matthew? Have you lost your zest for the job?
Oh, Caius, you were right about the huge crowds. I have more than I can do to keep them in line.
I don't think there's any excuse. If any of them slip by, I'll take the taxes out of your pay, do you hear?
Yes, I hear. Now then, first... Please, I'm trying to do what I can to make it easier and quicker for you all. If you'll only cooperate.
What's the matter with him? Look there and you'll see. That's what I told you. The master is coming this way. You see there, they're clearing a path for him.
The master, yes. Yes, I see.
Well, never mind that now. You do your job. You go on collecting taxes.
But the master, I must speak to him. I must ask him if he couldn't forgive a man like me.
You sit where you are, Matthew. You'll do what I tell you to.
Please, this one time I'd like to ask him, sir. I'd like to find out.
Collect the taxes, I say, is to find out what Roman retribution can be like. You don't do your job.
Yes, sir. It seems that nothing can help me. Nothing. I'm a man doomed to be hated and disgusted and thwarted all my life. My one chance, and I can't take advantage of it.
That's very touching, Matthew, but people are waiting. Collect the taxes.
Yes, I'll collect the taxes. What else is there for me in life? Work for the Romans, be hated by your own. Give up what little family you have, that's my lot. All right. Next. What's going on? Why are they all going so quiet?
No, I don't like it. There is something wrong. Something strange. Look.
The master. Coming toward us. Coming with a little stand. Guys, what shall I do?
Ask him for taxes, of course.
Don't joke about such things. Wait. Maybe this is my chance. Maybe this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. Master, there is something I must ask you.
Follow me.
Did you hear? Follow me. That's what the master said. He said it to me, to Matthew, the publican. Did you hear? All of you, did you hear? You who scorned me, who shunned me, did you hear? The master himself said for me to follow him.
And you, where are you going?
To follow him as he asked.
And I order you to come back.
Not this time and never again. I've been freed from the slavery of fear about money and of the fear of being despised. I go to follow him.
Matthew, come back.
Come back. In the name of Rome, I order you, come back.
Gone. He's gone.
And you are the disciple John, and you were Peter. I was glad to know you all, and you must try to be friendly toward me, please.
Matthew, the Master has chosen you. If you've been accepted by him, surely you can expect no less from us.
Yes, Matthew. You should do the same as us. Oh, I'm not the same, Peter, for I'm a man loathed and hated here in Capernaum. But from now on, things will be different. There is one thing that I must do before I leave here. The Master and all of you, you'll have the evening meal in my home. It'll be the last meal in my home, but you must all be there. And I shall invite all those who shamed me and let them see that the Master has forgiven me. And maybe they will forgive too.
Is there much else to prepare? Peter and I could help.
Oh, John, I've already disgraced the Master. The good people I've invited, they wouldn't come. And the others, the ones who would accept, they aren't good enough to eat at the same table with the Master, even as I am not.
Never show that, Matthew.
The Master shames no one. And if the meal is prepared, then you should invite the hungry to share it with us.
Go, Matthew. Invite all those who would come and share the feast with us. Don't judge them. Invite them.
Yes, John. Yes. John, I can see now what you meant. The Master turns from no man, no matter how low his station in life.
One can look about this table and guess the things these men have done.
Some have the shifty eyes of thieves.
Others, the hard faces of disbelievers. And still others, the haggard and worried look of those who are afraid of the world. Yet the master breaks bread with them and treats no man of them with disrespect, because he thinks not of the past, but of the present and the future. There's no man here who cannot be a good man, and with help and understanding, there will be good men one day.
Uncle Matthew! Uncle Matthew!
Deborah, please, I have an honored guest here for the last meal to be served in my home.
Please, Uncle, listen to me. It's important.
I hear you seem almost on the verge of tears. What is it? The wedding, Daniel? Is something wrong? And just when I thought that everything would be all right.
Uncle, I've heard. The master has chosen you to follow, and you've been forgiven, I know, but unfortunately others have heard too. That's why I'm here.
What do you mean, child?
They're coming here. The important men in the town, Samuel, Aaron, the elders, they're coming here now.
They are? That's good. For they'll see that I eat at the same table with the master.
You don't understand. They're coming here to confront the master, to accuse him, to do you harm.
You're still not satisfied? They want to go on persecuting me?
Don't be afraid, Matthew.
Yes, let them come. The master has faced angry mobs before, and men of authority. Don't be afraid, Matthew. You have brothers now. Male brothers.
See them?
Deborah, with my newfound friends, I'm not afraid. I let them in. Samuel, Aaron, welcome to my home.
Where is he? Where is this man who claims to be a prophet and is a friend of publicans and sinners at the same time?
There he sits at the head of the table. What do you want with him?
Master, you call yourself a prophet, a teacher of goodness and right. And yet there's not a man here at this table with you that we don't know to be a publican or a thief or an irreligious man. If you've come to raise them to the status of honored men, then you're not wanted in this town, not by us. No. You understand?
Samuel, that's no way to address the master.
His actions earn him that kind of address. Well, Master, you persist in honoring these people. If not, we have a feast prepared for you. We, the honorable citizens of Capernaum. Make your choice now.
They that are whole have no need of the physician, but they that are sick. I come not to call the righteous, but sinners to repentance.
Master, that is a strange soul.
No answer. Get rid of him. Drive him out of town. No, wait, my friend, wait. Let's not lose our tempers. There's a good deal in what he says. And haven't we seen it? Matthew wanted to give up being a publican, but we wouldn't help him. I wouldn't give him a job. We forced him to go back to the Romans. That much is true, yes. If we had helped him as the master did, he would have changed. He wanted to, you know that. Yes. Master, if you can, forgive us our angry words. Forgive us. And, Matthew, would you forgive me?
Oh, gladly, Samuel. Gladly.
Next week on this same network at this time, we will present another episode in the greatest story ever told from the greatest life ever lived. Armed Forces radio and television service, the voice of information and education.
Graymore Friars Monastery is located on Atonement Mountain, near Garrison, New York. Adjacent to this famous monastery, one sees St. Christopher's Inn. Homeless men from all walks of life come to this famous inn. These men are fed and sheltered by the Graymore Friars, and no distinction is ever made of race, creed, or color. You are invited to listen to another chapter of the dramatized story, The Life of Christ, brought to you transcribed each week by the Graymore Friars, who offer this series with a prayerful hope that this vivid portrayal of the life of Christ will help to awaken in you a deeper personal love of God and a firm determination to strive to prove that love in your daily life. Now, Chapter 26. The Good Shepherd.
He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather together the lambs with his arm, and take them up in his bosom, and he himself shall carry them that are with young.
Now when Jesus cured the man born blind, and spoke to the Pharisees of their own blindness, they were fearful, because there was such division among the people concerning Jesus. And they saw that many were flocking to him to listen to his teachings. And the scribes and the Pharisees went out among the people who were listening to Jesus, and they lifted up their voices and cried out for all to hear.
That is right. He is a good man. What he says is right.
Silence! Silence! Why do you listen? Why do you listen to him? Why do you listen to one who is mad and has a devil?
No, that is not
Do not follow him. He will lead you as a false shepherd his flocks to their destruction. Once he has you in the fold, he will deliver you up to the devil.
It's not true! It's not true, I tell you! The man is false!
No, he's false!
He is not! He is not!
Listen, Jesus is speaking.
Amen. Amen, I say to you, he who enters not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up another way, is a thief and a robber. But he who enters by the door is shepherd of the sheep. To this man the gatekeeper opens, and sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them forth. When he has let out his own sheep, he goes before them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. But a stranger they will not follow, but will flee from him, because they do not know the voice of strangers.
Are we ignorant shepherds that you speak to us in this manner? We are men of the law and the Scriptures. Sheep are no concern of ours.
Amen, amen, I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who ever have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not heard them. I am the door. If anyone enter by me, he shall be safe, and shall go in and out and find pastures. The thief comes only to steal and slay and destroy. I came that they may have life, and have it more abundantly.
If in this riddle you mean our people are the sheep and you a shepherd, I say again you are a false shepherd who would lure them to the devil.
I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for his sheep. But the hireling, who is not a shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, sees the wolf coming, and leaves the sheep and flees, and the wolf snatches and scatters the sheep. But the hireling flees because he is a hireling and has no concern for the sheep.
So because we say sheep are not our concern, you liken us to wolves and hirelings.
I am the good shepherd, and I know mine, and mine know me, even as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for my sheep. And other sheep I have that are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. For this reason the Father loves me, because I lay down my life, that I may take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have the power to lay it down, and I have the power to take it up again. Such is the command I have received from my Father.
And going from Jerusalem, Jesus took the road to Jericho along Jordan, and journeyed to Galilee, and the people who believed in him flocked to his side. From among these, Jesus appointed 72 disciples, and sent them forth 2 by 2 before him into every town and place where he himself was about to come. And before sending them out, he instructed them in much the same manner as he had instructed the original 12.
Silence, please. The Master is going to speak.
The harvest indeed is abundant, but the laborers are few. Pray therefore the Lord of the harvest to send forth laborers into his harvest. Go, behold, I send you forth as lambs in the midst of wolves. Carry neither purse, nor wallet, nor sandals, and greet no one on the way. Whatever house you enter first, say, Peace be to this house. And if a son of peace be there, your peace will rest upon him. But if not, it will return to you. And remain in the same house, eating and drinking what they have. For the laborer deserves his wages. Do not go from house to house. If whatever town you enter, and they receive you, eat what is set before you, and cure the sick who are there, and say to them, The kingdom of God is at hand to you.
If a town receives us not, what must we do, Master?
Whatever town you enter, they do not receive you. Go out into its streets and say, even the dust from your town that cleaves to us we shake off against you. Yet know this, that the kingdom of God is at hand. I say to you that it will be more tolerable for Sodom in that day than for that town.
Master, shall we go unto Capharnaum and the towns nearby, that they may know of your coming?
Woe to thee, Chorazin! Woe to thee, Bethsaida! For if in Tyre and Sidon had been worked the miracles that I have worked in you, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more tolerable in Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And thou, Capharnaum, shalt thou be exalted to heaven? Thou shalt be thrust down to hell. For if the miracles had been worked in Sodom that have been worked in thee, it would have remained to this day. But I tell you, it will be more tolerable for the land of Sodom on the day of judgment than for thee. He who hears you hears me. And he who rejects you rejects me. And he who rejects me rejects him who sent me.
Come. Peter has given the signal to start. Let us go and do as the Master has told us.
And the 72 divided into pairs, and they went into Galilee and to the surrounding towns, telling the people that Jesus was coming their way. They went from town to town, and they worked miracles, and they cast out devils in Christ's name. And one day they returned to Jesus, and their hearts were joyful in what they had done.
Master, we went forth into many places, and we did all as you commanded us. Lord, even the devils are subject to us in thy name.
I was watching Satan fall as lightning from heaven. Behold, I have given you power to tread upon serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall hurt you.
Lord, we rejoice in this.
Do not rejoice that the spirits are subject to you, but rejoice in this, that your names are written in heaven.
Lord, a reward such as this we would gladly die to attain.
I praise thee, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that thou didst hide these things from the wise and prudent, and didst reveal them to little ones. Yes, Father, for such was thy good pleasure.
Of a truth, this power comes from God.
All things have been delivered to me by my Father, and no one knows who the Son is except the Father, and who the Father is except the Son, and him to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I say to you, many prophets and kings have desired to see what you see, and they have not seen it, and to hear what you hear, and they have not heard it.
Now there was a scribe among the crowds that flocked around Jesus. And as Jesus was saying these things, the scribe was thinking to himself,
This man says he has not come to destroy the law of Moses, but to fulfill it. Yet he has ignored the law of the Sabbath. I will test him, not on that, but on some great principle. Comparing what he says with what Moses has declared, I may get some evidence, if I can but trap him. I have it. I know what I'll ask him, and there are plenty of witnesses about to hear him answer.
Master, what must I do to gain eternal life?
What is written in the law?
Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with thy whole heart, and with thy whole soul, and with thy whole strength, and with thy whole mind, and thy neighbor as thyself.
He looks at me. Will he dare correct this, or add to it, or nullify it in some way? I hope he does. But if not, if he agrees, I have another question ready.
Thou hast answered rightly. Do this, and thou shalt live.
Why ask such a question? It's written. Anyone knows that.
And who is my neighbor?
I see what he's after.
The answer's simple. The man next door is your neighbor.
A certain man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell in with robbers, who, after both stripping him and beating him, went their way, leaving him half dead.
Master, I dislike to interrupt, but you're not answering the question.
But as it happened, a certain priest was going down the same way. And when he saw him, he passed by. And likewise a Levite also. When he was near the place and saw him, passed by.
Very interesting, but it's irrelevant.
But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came upon him, and seeing him was moved with compassion. He went up to him, bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine, and setting him on his own beast, he brought him to an inn and took care of him.
Master, I protest this rambling. If this were a court of law, I would...
Be still. Let Jesus tell his story. You're not in court.
But he's avoiding my question.
Oh, quiet.
And the next day, he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper and said, Take care of him, and whatever more thou spendest, I on my way back will repay thee.
Very considerate. But now, if I may, I'll repeat my question.
Which of these three, in thy opinion, proved himself neighbor to the man who fell among robbers?
I am not interested in these 3. I'm only...
Right. Is it not a fair question?
What, it's I who am questioning him.
Perhaps if you answer the master's question, you will get the answer to yours. Are you afraid to answer?
I'm not afraid to answer. I merely want to proceed according to the rules of evidence and questioning.
It's a simple question. Any of us could answer it. Which of the 3 proved himself a neighbor to the unfortunate man?
No, you're
the priest,
okay.
the Levite, or the Samaritan who took pity on him?
I've done the year 6.
Well,
right. That's all that came.
He who took pity on him.
You know?
Go.
Because as you can
do
see,
thou also in like manner.
I didn't know that until I ran, because...
Have you not answered your own question?
I go run postal
Aye.
Oh, wait a second.
I have my answer.
This file in there. And that's when it,
He who is in need of compassion is neighbor.
He who extends his compassion and help loves his neighbor as himself.
That is a logical conclusion. And when Jesus had told the parable of the Good Samaritan, he left that place and journeyed toward Jerusalem. And he came to the house at Bethania of Martha and Mary, who knew and loved Jesus.
You must come in and rest, and stay as long as you wish.
Is in the DP...
Mary!
I know, but that's what I'm saying. So there's a DP...
Mary! Jesus has come to visit us.
Apparently there's something else. There's a last point, the DPD.
That girl worships you, Jesus.
Diversified directory.
But how silent she is whenever you are. All she wants to do is sit before you and
go
listen.
4 different places.
But you must be hungry and tired.
You
You sit here and rest, and Mary and I will prepare the food.
Diversified directory.
I expect my brother back before
Main one.
nothing.
So that
He will be overjoyed.
everything into action. Without that, I can load those
And
files.
Martha hurried to the kitchen to prepare a meal.
Diversified directory. File and it's fine.
Mary, is the table prepared? The evening meal will be ready soon.
We were supposed to be using
Oh, there's the water boiling over into the
file that I
fire.
really need. I can't find it.
Mary, come here a moment.
I thought it would be.
Where is that girl? Never here when she's needed.
Oh, that's the question.
And if Mary heard her sister call, she did not heed her wish. For she sat at Jesus' feet and listened to him speak the words which held the multitudes and changed men's hearts.
Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the clean of heart, for they shall be satisfied. Do not think that I have come to destroy the law or the prophets. I have not come to destroy, but to fulfill. Do not be anxious for thy life, what you shall eat, nor yet for your body what you shall put on. Is not the life a greater thing than the food, and the body than the clothing?
Mary, come help me in the kitchen.
You sent in that email,
Therefore,
right?
do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we put on? For your Father knows that you need all these things.
Mary!
But seek first the kingdom of God and his justice, and all these things shall be given to you besides. Therefore, do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will have anxieties of its own. Sufficient for the day is its own troubles.
Mary, why haven't you prepared the table? Here it is, time to place the food before our guest, and not a thing done. Oh, where can she be? There you are. Mary, I asked you to arrange the table. I told you Jesus was tired and didn't want to be disturbed. And I find you here, and nothing done. Nothing. Lord, is it no concern of thine that my sister has left me to serve alone? Tell her, therefore, to help me.
Martha. Martha, thou art anxious and troubled about many things.
About your supper, and water boiling over, and having things hot, and the table not prepared, and Mary, who seems troubled about nothing when you're here, except to sit at your feet and adore you.
And yet, only one thing is needful.
But I'm trying to teach her how to run a household, and to do her part, especially when we have company, when I need her most.
Mary has chosen the best part, and it will not be taken away from her.
Ah, the best part. Yes, I see. One has only to look at her face. Stay where you are, Mary. I'll attend to the supper.
And Martha, seeing the spiritual glow that had come to Mary at the feet of Jesus, realized indeed that she had chosen that which would never be taken away from her.
feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather together the lambs with his arms, and take them up in his bosom. And he himself shall carry them that are with young.
The Graymore Friars Monastery is located on Atonement Mountain, near Garrison, New York. Adjacent to this famous monastery, one sees St. Christopher's Inn. Homeless men from all walks of life come to this famous inn. These men are fed and sheltered by the Graymore Friars, and no distinction is ever made of race, creed, or color. You're invited to listen to another chapter of the dramatized story, The Life of Christ, brought to you transcribed each week by the Graymore Friars, who offer this series with a prayerful hope that this vivid portrayal of the life of Christ will help to awaken in you a deeper personal love of God and a firm determination to strive to prove that love in your daily life. Now, Chapter 27. Jesus in Judea.
He shall redeem my soul in peace from them that drew near to me. God shall hear, and the Eternal shall humble them. For there is no change with them, and they have not feared. His words are smoother than oil, and the same are darts. Cast thy care upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall not suffer the just to waver forever.
Now Jesus rested at the home of Mary and Martha for several days. And people sought him out, and he spoke to them and to his disciples in much the same manner as he had on former occasions.
But I say to you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, and after that they have nothing more that they can do. But I shall show you whom you shall be afraid of. Be afraid of him who, after he has killed you, has power to cast into hell.
And among those who listened was a Pharisee named Lemuel, and a lawyer named Reuben.
Reuben, this man interests me. I saw him at the Feast of Tabernacles, and you must admit he had old Annas and Caiaphas in a sweat.
There's no denying he has the mob in the hollow of his hand. If he were a lawyer, I wouldn't want to be his opponent in a court of law.
What do you think of the idea of inviting him to dinner with a select group of our friends, where we could have a quiet, confidential discussion?
I'm afraid Caiaphas might get the wrong impression.
He need not know about it. Should he find out, we will say we did not know about it. Should he find out, we will say we did it to draw the man out and get some idea what he had up his sleeve.
Frankly, I like the idea. I don't want this repeated, Lemuel, but the stiff-necked attitude of our leaders is not doing us any good.
I'm glad to hear you say that, Reuben.
You are? Why?
Annas and his son-in-law has had a hold on the priesthood for a long time.
Too long, Lemuel.
Exactly. I'd like to see a change. I think he handled this matter of John the Baptist and Jesus rather badly.
In what way?
He let him go too long. What happened? Jesus gathered a following. Now the situation's gotten almost out of control. You saw what happened when the guards tried to arrest Jesus.
Then there was that business about the money changers and merchants in the temple.
Some of us, like Nicodemus and a few others, had suggested cleaning up that filthy mess long ago, but no. Caiaphas didn't want to do anything to antagonize the merchants. Besides, he had a better chance to keep an eye on the revenue. All in all, Caiaphas has made a number of blunders, and this might be our opportunity to get some new blood.
I agree, Lemuel. But what has it got to do with inviting Jesus to dinner?
He could be useful should we wish to turn Caiaphas out.
How?
Suppose we could work something out with him whereby he would unite with us against Caiaphas.
The two are natural enemies.
We could say to him, we agree with many of the things you preach, but there's no chance of getting any reforms as long as Caiaphas is high priest. You help us get more liberal-minded regime, and we'll help you get your reforms.
All of them, Lemuel?
Do I look like a fool, Reuben? I know as well as Caiaphas that the temple wouldn't last a month if we acknowledged Jesus' claims. So, you like the idea of a friendly little dinner, say, at my home?
Whom would you ask to come?
I want a few open-minded lawyers like yourself, not more than 5 or 6. I leave the choice to you.
I can get them without any trouble.
I'll pick the same number of my close friends.
When would it be?
Oh, as soon as possible.
Lemuel, there's one thing you may not have thought of.
What is that?
Jesus may not accept the invitation.
Oh, I think he will if properly approached. He'll be flattered that one of the leaders of the temple extends him an invitation.
I'm not so sure.
There's one way to settle it. Let's ask him.
Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 farthings? And yet not one of them is forgotten before God. Therefore do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows.
Look, Master, who comes to you.
Master, a number of my friends have expressed the desire to meet you. I would be highly honored if you would consent to be my guest at dinner tomorrow night. Just a modest little affair with...
Master, do not go among them. They will...
Peter. I will be glad to come.
Thank you, Master. Your friends need have no fear. My guest will be carefully selected from my friends. We would like to sit down quietly and intelligently discuss with you certain religious concepts.
I will come.
Tomorrow evening, then, at the house of Lemuel.
Did you see it, Lemuel? See what? He did not wash his hands or feet. What? Oh, perhaps he was lost in meditation. An oversight. No, it wasn't. When we came to the basins, I made a motion for him to wash first, and I would wait. He looked at us. All were washing. Then he passed on. It was deliberate. Oh, come, Reuben. Surely he knows the law. Of course he does. Then what is his purpose in deliberately ignoring it? To annoy us. To attract attention to himself, maybe.
Well, let us not be annoyed. Come, the servants have given everyone places. Our guests are waiting for us.
And the two went into the banquet hall and reclined on the couches near Jesus. But they were puzzled at his behavior, and they could not but help let their thoughts dwell on it.
If it was deliberate, it was rudeness. This I find hard to believe. Though he has been severe with us, I've never considered him rude or ill-bred.
There was some subtle purpose in this. There's no question of oversight. If I knew how to put the question politely, I'd come right out and ask him why he refused to wash his hands.
Now you Pharisees clean the outside of the cup and dish.
Oh, Master, do you read thoughts?
You clean the outside of the cup and dish. But within, you are full of robbery and wickedness.
Robbery and wickedness? You didn't even wash outside.
Foolish ones! Did not he who made the outside make the inside too?
Master, you refer to dishes. They are but vessels from which we eat and drink. When we are finished, they are taken out and washed.
Nevertheless, give that which remains as alms, and behold, all things are clean to you.
Listen to who speaks. What alms do you give? When have you paid tithes or temple tax?
But woe to you, Pharisees, because you pay tithes on mint and rue and every herb, and disregard justice and the love of God.
Ah, you tell us we do wrong in paying tithes? Yes. Let's have your statement on this. I dare you to say tithes are unlawful.
For these things you ought to have done, while not leaving the others undone.
You speak to men who observe the laws, who pay their taxes, their dues, who obey their priests, who go to the synagogues.
Woe to you, Pharisees, because you love the front seats in the synagogue and greetings in the marketplace. Woe to you, because you are like hidden tombs over which men walk unaware.
I demand to be heard. Please, my friend. I insist on being heard. Please, I beg of all of you. Let us be orderly.
Lemuel, this is an outrage.
My apologies, Reuben. My apologies to all my guests. I invited this man to my home in the expectation that we could have a friendly meal and discussion. Certainly I had no idea he would behave in an unseemly manner.
You are not at fault, Lemuel. I, too, invited my friends in good faith. But look what he has done. First, he ignored the time-honored custom of washing his hands. Then, before we can take a morsel of food, he berates all Pharisees, accusing them of wickedness and robbery. Ignoring the common courtesy expected of an invited guest, he would correct us and instruct us in regard to the giving of alms. He makes light of our paying tithes, when he himself has said the laborer is worthy of his hire. As for the leaders occupying the front seats in the synagogue, who else should occupy them? Do not the people expect it of us? Why, he even resents that our friends wave greetings to us, and the people bow their respects in the marketplace.
This is nothing to his likening us to hidden tombs.
I was coming to that. He knows well that the law forbids a man to touch a tomb. And should he do so unwittingly, that man is unclean for 7 days. He well knows we Jews whitewash our tombstones so that they be noticed and no man walk on a grave. Yes, I agree. This is the deepest insult of all. For in effect he says there is hidden uncleanness among us. We lawyers are the interpreters of the law. It is on our profession that priests rely for guidance in carrying out their duties in accordance with the law. It is for that reason I insisted on making a reply. Master, in saying these things, thou insultest us also.
Woe to you lawyers also, because you load men with oppressive burdens, and you yourselves with one of your fingers do not touch the burdens.
A lie, a vile slander. How unbearable can these alleged burdens be? The people have never complained. They regard tithes and taxes as proof they are true children of Israel.
Woe to you, for you build the tombs of the prophets, whereas your fathers killed them.
Now you dishonor us, and the dead. Is it not right to build tombs for the prophets of Israel?
So then you are witnesses and approve the deeds of your fathers, for they indeed killed them, and you build their tombs.
What logic is this? You mean to say he whose duty it is to bury the dead is responsible for the death?
For this reason also the wisdom of God has said, I will send them prophets and apostles, and some of them they will put to death and persecute.
No true prophet has
that
ever
the
been...
blood of all the prophets that has been shed from the foundation of the world may be required of this generation.
You say all the prophets and of this generation?
From the blood of Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, who was slain between the altar and the temple. Yes, I say to you, it shall be required of this generation.
Master, you are so bitter against us, yet you offer no evidence.
Woe to you, lawyers, because you have taken away the key of knowledge.
A lie, a slander on us.
You have not entered yourselves, and those who were entering, you have hindered.
After he had said these things to them, the Pharisees and the lawyers began to press him hard, and to provoke him to speak on many things. setting traps for him and plotting to seize upon something out of his mouth, that they might accuse him. For they hated him the more because he had seen into their hearts and mind at the dinner at Lemuel's house. And after leaving that place, Jesus spoke to his disciples, and to the crowds that were so great they were treading on one another.
Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. For there is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, and nothing hidden that will not be made known. For what you have said in darkness will be said in the light, and what you have whispered in the inner chambers will be preached on the housetops. But I say to you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, and after that have nothing more that they can do. But I will show you whom you shall be afraid of. Be afraid of him who, after he has killed, has power to cast into hell. Yes, I say to you, be afraid of him. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 farthings? And yet not one of them is forgotten before God. Yes, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Therefore do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. And I say to you, everyone who acknowledges me before man, him will the Son of Man also acknowledge before the angels of God. But whoever disowns me before men will be disowned before the angels of God. And everyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man, it shall be forgiven him. But to him who blasphemes against the Holy Spirit, it will not be forgiven.
Master.
And when they bring you before the synagogues, and the magistrates, and the authorities, do not be anxious how or wherewith you shall defend yourselves, or what you will say. For the Holy Spirit will teach you in that very hour what you ought to say.
Master, a question. Master, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me.
Man, who has appointed me a judge or arbitrator over you?
But he refuses to divide. Half of what he owns is rightfully mine, but the lawyers side with him. Tell them they wrong me.
Take heed and guard yourselves from all covetousness. For a man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions.
I see nothing wrong in having some of the luxuries of living.
The land of a certain rich man brought forth abundant crops. And he began to take thought within himself, saying, What shall I do? For I have no room to store my crops. And he said, I will do this. I will pull down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store up all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, thou hast many good things laid up for many years. Take thy ease, eat, drink, be merry. But God said to him, Thou fool, this night do they demand thy soul of thee, and the things that thou hast provided, whose will they be? So is he who lays up treasure for himself, and is not rich as regards God.
All very well, Jesus. But how is one to feed and clothe oneself if you forbid the storing up of wealth?
Therefore I say to you, do not be anxious for your life, what you shall eat, nor yet for your body what you shall put on. The life is greater than the food, and the body than the clothing. Consider the ravens. They neither sow nor reap. They have neither storeroom or barn. Yet God feeds them. Of how much more value are you than they? But which of you, by being anxious about it, can add to his stature a single cubit? Therefore, if you are not able to do even a very little thing, why are you so anxious concerning the rest? See how the lilies grow. They neither toil nor spin. Yet I say to you that not even Solomon in all his glory was arrayed like one of these. But if God so clothes the grass, which today is alive in the field and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, how much more you, O you of little faith? And as for you, do not seek what you shall eat or what you shall drink. Do not exalt yourselves, for after all these things the nations of the world seek. But your Father knows that you need these things. But seek the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be given you besides.
And these things, and many more, Jesus spoke to the people in Judea, while the Pharisees looked on and were helpless to prevent the crowds from listening.
He shall redeem my soul in peace from them that draw near to me. God shall hear, the Eternal shall humble them. For there is no change with them, and they have not fear. His words are smoother than oil, and the same are darts. Cast thy care upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee. He shall not suffer the just to waver forever.
During the next half hour, the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations have made their facilities available to the National Council of Catholic Men as a public service for the presentation of the Catholic Hour. Reverend Monsignor Fulton J. Sheen will deliver the 8th in a series of 16 addresses under the general title, One Lord, One World. The music on today's program will be provided by the choir of the Church of the Blessed Sacrament, Warren Foley, organist and conductor. Today's program will be under the direction of Edward Frank. The choir opens the program with the well-known Panis Angelicus by Cesar Franck. The tenor soloist is Arthur Ulysses.
Canis angelicus, fit canis hominum, de panis celicus figuris terminum, horas mirabilis, manducat hominum, pauper, servus et humilis, pauper, servus et humilis, Catrina Deitas, unacque poscimus, sit nos tu visita, sicut colimus, per tuas semitas, sub nos quotandimus, ad lucem quam in habitas. Ad lucem quam in habitas.
The Right Reverend Monsignor Fulton J. Sheen now addresses the Catholic Hour audience. The title of Monsignor Sheen's talk is The International Condition of World Peace. Monsignor Sheen.
Friends, next Sunday is the first Sunday of Lent, and is our custom each year. We will then turn from the social order to the individual in order to prepare our souls for Easter. Today we discuss the basic moral principle of the international order, namely, the world is one because it was made by one Lord and is governed by one law. All men are one because, as St. Paul said, God hath made all mankind to dwell upon the face of the earth. To unite men, there must be something outside men. Just as to pack a bag, one must be outside the bag. A moral law outside of nations to which all nations can appeal, and to which they must submit even when the decision goes against them, is the only sound basis of world peace. That is why there will never be one world until we all learn to pray, Our Father, who art in heaven. The only alternative to one world based on one Lord and one moral law is to have many worlds and many lords, where each nation is its own law and its own God. Like the workers on the Tower of Babel, each nation will then speak a different language and live by a different code. And having naught in common, the project of world peace, like the Tower of Babel, will end in confusion worse confounded. In that case, there would be no way to decide whether Japanese atrocities were wrong and American humanitarianism was right, except by a war between these gods in which might decides what is right. To all who have eyes, it should be as clear as the stones in the road that the day we make a godless world, we will also make a loveless world. We have had political expressions of this moral law in the fine traditions of America, in the Atlantic Charter, in the Four Freedoms, and in these magnificent words of the State Department, which make one feel proud of being American. Namely, unless the relation between nations are governed by the rule of reason and of justice and of law, the basis of modern civilization itself cannot be preserved. Because Americans generally accept the moral and religious basis of an international order, they are embarrassed by attacks on religion, whether official or unofficial. Some, inspired by the very best sentiments, protest against such attacks on religion on the ground that those who make them forget that politics is separate from religion, and that it hurts international relations to confuse them. This criticism is based on a 19th century attitude which no longer fits 20th century facts. Limiting ourselves solely to facts, during the 19th century, religion and politics established a kind of modus vivendi, or tacit agreement, not to interfere in the other's domain. It was an arrangement like a husband and a wife who live peaceably so long as the husband stays out of the kitchen. But what actually happened was that while religion was staying in the parlor, irreligion, the next-door neighbor, came in and stole the political wife. In other words, while politics asked religion not to interfere, politics became irreligious. First with communism, then with the fascists, and finally with the Nazis. And that is why the Church condemned all three. And the Church condemned all three ideologies, not because they were bad political systems, but because they were bad religions. In other words, the new politics is a religion, a false mysticism. Nothing today is secular. The temporal smothers the spiritual. This war is therefore more a religious war than it is a nationalistic war. It is a conflict between two totally different philosophies of life. Never before in the history of Christianity has the cause of God and man, of religion and freedom, been as nearly identical as it is at this very hour. As Joan of Arc fought simultaneously for the kingdom of God and for France, so America is fighting, in an analogical sense, for a political ideal which is essentially a moral ideal. The tragedy of attacks on religion within our camp, then, is not that they may endanger our military success, but that they reveal a disparity of ideals as different as night and day. There is therefore not much point in reminding the enemies of religion that religion and politics are separate, because to them, politics is religion, in the sense that politics is anti-religious and admits of no other law or code or morality than itself. From quite another point of view, there is such a thing as looking at disturbances in the international moral order through the eyes of faith. There is nothing new in the world. There are only the same old things happening to new people. The gospel is the prehistory of the church. No sword is ever lifted against Christ's church, but that Christ feels the wound. Of each new agony and woe, he can say, my pain, my grief, my death. Hence, when I read of attacks launched against religion, or if I hear it said that the church is opposed to the freedom-loving peoples of the world, and that there could be no peace in Europe until religion is crushed, somehow or other my mind immediately begins to think of the day the Son of the Most High God was standing on that sunlit balustrade of the Fortress Antonio, and the same charges were hurled against him. Remember the charges? We have found this man perverting our nation, refusing to give tribute to Caesar, and saying that he is Christ the King. That was a roundabout way in those less clever days of name-calling, of saying that Christ was a fascist. They were all lies. But what difference did it make? Did not Hitler say, you can never get people to believe little lies, but they will always believe big ones? That boasted of his power, the words of the Savior still ring above him in a paean of hope. You would not have this power unless it were given to you from above. And then when I hear the enemies of religion say, the church is hated. It's hated in Belgium, it's hated in Italy, in France, in Holland, in Great Britain, and in the United States, I remember how our Lord foretold that this very day would come to pass. Remember his words? If the world hate you, know ye that it hath hated me before you. If you had been of the world would love its own. But because I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hateth you. If they have persecuted me, they will also persecute you. Yes, he was hated too. And once there echoed in his ears a shout, crucify. Who cried for his death? The masses. Everyone hated him. But who moved the masses to hate? The leaders, the ancients, the makers of public opinion, in the simple language of the gospel, quoting St. Matthew, they persuaded the people. St. Matthew here reads like today's newspaper. The people are still being persuaded. These attacks against the church will continue. For in this day, the devil has a long rope. But hold solidly to your moral principles. As Washington said, no nation can survive without religion and morality. And if we lose morality, we endanger the nation. The disintegration of any civilization, or a crisis in history such as we are in today, bears within itself the threat of an interregnum of barbarism. As in the physical order, the putrid remains of the unburied dead create a pestilence. so the disintegration of the secular civilization through which we have just lived, and which was strong only because it lived on the heritage of Christianity, creates the possibility of chaos. Secularism left to itself is really only a transition between a culture that once was Christian and one which will be anti-Christian and barbarian. And by barbarism we mean the destruction of moral values, or the repudiation of the funded heritage of culture. I do not mean that the barbarism of this new era will be like that of the Huns of old. No. It will be very different. It will be technical. It will be scientific. It will be secular. It will be propagandized. This barbarism will not come from without, but from within. For barbarism is not outside of us. It is beneath us. Older civilizations were destroyed by imported barbarism. Modern civilization breeds its own. Pray then. Pray for the world. Pray for the church. And pray for the enemies of the church. That is why, as long as we've been talking about this moral order, we have asked you to make a holy hour every day. Jews, Protestants, Catholics, set aside an hour a day. Now that Lent is coming on, may every Catholic who hears my voice attend daily Mass. And if it is possible, extend that Mass for half an hour and make a holy hour in reparation for the sins of the world. For what happens between you and God when you are on your knees is of vital importance to the world. Pray for Russia. Every morning, every priest throughout the world prays for Russia. Those prayers we say at the end of every low Mass are for that intention. Dostoevsky foretold a day of his own country, namely one, he said, in which after it had passed through a diabolical anti-God stage, his Russia would one day sit at the feet of Christ and learn his gospel. And to the dawn of that day, our eyes expectantly look, wherein nations can live in one world, because there is one moral law and one Lord. These are hard days for the church. The church is maligned, smeared, and misunderstood. But really, all that it is trying to do in this world at this moment is to preserve the negatives of a moral order as the warring nations tear up the photographs. The church is no more interested in political regimes than was its master. Christ in his church rides through the world, not on a war horse, conquering all before him, but on an animal which is the symbol of docility and peace. And he rides it into the very jaws of death. Hold fast to your God. Keep your faith. Your church. The time is now 5 minutes to 12. We are in the valley of decision. Either the bloom or the blight. A new crime is arising in the world today. Be
prepared for it. The crime of being a Christian. The crime of believing in God. So help us, God.
God love you.
You have just heard Monsignor Sheen deliver an address entitled The International Condition of World Peace. You may obtain a copy of this talk by writing to the National Council of Catholic Men, Washington, D.C., or to the station to which you are now listening. The choir now sings a favorite Catholic hymn, Jesus, My Lord, My God. The boy soprano soloist is Robert Waska.
Jesus, my Lord, my God, my Lord, how can I love thee as I ought, and how reveal this wondrous gift, so far surpassing hope or thought. Sweet sacrament, we thee adore. Oh, make us love thee more and more. Oh, make us love thee more and more. And I but Mary's sinless heart to love thee with my dearest King, and to reveal this wondrous gift, thy goodness, Jesus, would I sing. Sweet sacrament, we thee adore. Oh, make us love thee more and more. Oh, make us love thee more and more.
And now we invite all those listening to join Monsignor Sheen in offering up this prayer in time of war.
O Lord Jesus Christ, who in thy mercy hearest the prayers of sinners, pour forth, we beseech thee, all grace and blessing upon our country and its citizens. We pray in particular for the President, for our Congress, for all our soldiers, for all who defend us in ships, whether on the seas or in the skies, for all who are suffering the hardships of war. We pray for all who are in peril or in danger. Bring us all after the troubles of this life into the haven of peace, and reunite us all together forever, O dear Lord, in thy glorious heavenly kingdom.
invited to listen to the Catholic Hour next Sunday at this same time, when Monsignor Sheen will deliver an address entitled, The First Word to the Cross. The music will be performed by the choir of the Church of the Blessed Sacrament, New York City. On today's program was directed by Edward Frank. Your announcer is John Patrick Costello. The National Council of Catholic Men has presented the Catholic Hour through the facilities of the National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations, which have been made available as a public service and as a contribution to the religious life of America. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
This is the Hour of St. Francis, featuring Patrick McGeehan as Jim Powers in his own story, which might also be yours.
I'm waiting for my wife at this restaurant that's halfway between her house and mine. 3 years ago, a judge told us, you're not married anymore. That's why I have to make a date to see my own wife. Well, we asked for it, Lucille and I. We killed our love by our infidelities. No, there wasn't any triangle. We did it the slow way. I want to tell you just how we did it because Lucille and I stand for thousands of other couples. We started out like most of them. Dance, date, more dates. Kisses in the moonlight, here comes the bride, and our honeymoon is going to last forever, sweetheart. It lasted 5 months, until we moved into our own house. I started to hang a picture in the living room. It was one I'd picked up myself. A fleet of fishing boats with red sails coming into a harbor.
Oh, Jim. Jim, darling, that picture belongs in the hall.
In the hall? Sweetheart, this is a living room picture.
But it doesn't match a thing in the living room.
Oh, that's all right. It's nice for a contrast.
Sticks out like a sore thumb.
It does not. This is a good picture.
What's good about it?
I like it.
Oh, Jim, you sound just like a child. I'm not going to have that thing in my living room.
It's my living room, too. If you don't have this picture here, what are you going to have?
The one I bought, the ballet dancers.
Oh, I hate ballet dancers.
I hate fishing boats. I won't have them in my living room.
This is my...
All right. All right, go ahead. Be selfish and spoil the looks of the whole room. My feelings don't matter.
Oh, now who's acting childish? Nobody's spoiling anything.
It's my fault, I suppose. It's my fault that you have no taste, you're stubborn, and you won't listen to reason.
Look, stop yelling and give me one good reason why I can't hang this picture in the living room.
Because I don't want it there.
I said a reason.
All right. Hang it in the living room. Fill the whole house with your old shrimp boats. I don't care.
We never did hang either the shrimp boats or the ballet dancers. Both our pictures ended up in the hall closet, buried like a lot of our dreams. Lucille and I nursed our hurt feelings into our first act of infidelity. We went back on our promise to take each other, Jim and Lucille, for better or worse, with our bad points as well as our good ones. For richer, for poorer. We promised that, too. But when I don't get any richer, we drift into another kind of infidelity.
What do you mean, where does the money go? What money?
The money I give you every week, my whole paycheck, except for car fare and lunch money. That ought to be enough for rent and groceries and everything.
Would be if we lived in a tenement and ate nothing but bread and water.
Lucille, what's the idea of telling Elaine Miller you can't bear to go to the fashion show?
I merely told her the truth. On the salary you're making, I can't afford a new hanky.
Lucille, will you please quit whining about Bill Morris getting that promotion? He's been with the firm 3 months longer than I have.
And he's got brains and some get-up-and-go about him.
And he's got a wife who knows how to save money instead of throwing it away in the junk the way you do. Well, see what we were doing? Breaking our word to be satisfied, whether we had more money or less. We started with finance, then we got personal. And we don't keep it to ourselves. There's always the friend of Lucille's and the friend of mine who keeps us posted on each other's sniping in public.
Where's Jim? Oh, he came to the party, but he's probably asleep under a potted palm someplace. That's all he does at home, fall asleep in the chair until it's time to go to bed. He should get a job demonstrating mattresses. The only business he'll ever make a success of.
You ladies don't mean you want to run my wife for president of the garden club. Oh, you see, that's the joke of the season. Lucille's got as much executive ability as a white rabbit. And when it comes to handling money, she can't add a column of zeros and get the right answer. To love and to honor. We started breaking that promise every day. Love doesn't live for long after you've killed respect. Things quiet down a little just before we have the baby, my son Jimmy. Then he just serves as more ammunition for the battle. We fight about everything from his formula to the college he's going to. Jimmy's about 8 months old when I get what looks like a break. A chance to work late a couple of nights a week and pile up a lot of overtime. But Lucille and I managed to spoil that, too.
I called your office 3 times last night and nobody answered. Thought you told me you were working late.
Oh, maybe I stepped out for some coffee.
It takes a whole hour to drink 1 cup of coffee.
Lucille, why do you keep asking me where I was last night? You know I worked late Tuesdays.
I drove by your office on the way home from the club meeting, and there wasn't a light in the place.
You can't... All right. So maybe I worked down in the basement.
You're getting paid for this overtime, aren't you? I never see any of those checks.
You see my regular paycheck every week? That ought to be enough. I could have explained everything in 2 minutes, but I wouldn't. Why not? Oh, just to be stubborn. You see, I'd planned a surprise, and I was not going to let her spoil it. Then one night I came home around 10 to find her waiting at the door.
We're going to have this out right now. Where have you been?
So you don't believe I've been working overtime?
There's no one in that building the night you say you're working. How dumb do you think I am? Well, whoever she is, she's welcome to you.
She? Lucille, is that what you've been thinking?
What do you expect?
You thought I was unfaithful.
If that's what you want to call it.
I don't know why I should tell you this now. You've been down to the office. You should know the switchboard closes at 6 p.m. No calls in or out. The room I'm working in is in the back, and you can't see any lights from the street. And here's the reason why I didn't give you the checks.
What are these? Receipts from a jewelry store.
I'd almost finished paying on a ring for you.
Oh, Jim, I'm sorry.
Well, it's a little late for that.
Well, why didn't you tell me all this before? You let me sit here and worry night after night. You just did it to be mean. You don't care anything about my feelings.
You're the one who's been unfaithful. You wouldn't trust me.
That's right. Go ahead and blame me. That's all you've ever done. Well, you listen to me, Jim Powers. I'm not going to stand for any more of your abuse.
Well, I'm fed up, too. This does it.
All right, if that's the way you feel about it. You can get your money back on that ring you were going to buy. And here's your wedding ring, too.
If that's the way you want it.
That's the way I want it.
After that, we think there's just one thing to do. In no time at all, we're sitting in the courtroom and the judge is saying, divorce granted. It's all over just like that. I don't feel anything. I'm numb inside. Then, as I start visiting Jimmy every other weekend, and I see Lucille for 5 minutes at that time, the numbness wears off. I feel a slow ache, like a bad tooth getting worse and worse. I try to get rid of the ache by digging up all the reasons why we had to get a divorce. I end by coming to the conclusion that Lucille and I had wrecked our whole future by breaking faith in so many little things that we finish by doubting we loved each other at all. I have 3 years of trying to live without a good reason. Then my luck changes, which means that God feels sorry for one of the biggest fools who ever breathed. He fixes things so my car breaks down one morning, and I have to ride a bus to work. I take a couple of drinks to fortify myself, as I'm getting in the habit of doing. On the bus, I sit next to a lady who sniffs and gives me a dirty look. She has an even dirtier look to throw at a fellow who gets on at the next stop. He's really loaded. Hey, buddy. You better sit down here.
All right. Thanks, Mac. Hey, will you tell me when we get to Anaconda?
Where?
Anaconda Street.
Oh.
Where Anaconda School is. I gotta go see my little girl.
Hey, mister, you better wait until Saturday. You can't see her during school hours.
Oh, it's the only time I can see her. She talks to me through the fence. My wife left me. She took my little girl.
Oh, look, why don't you go visit her where she lives now?
My wife won't let me see my little girl no more. Says now I drink too much.
Well, she could be right.
I can see my little girl.
Oh, how perfectly disgusting. He should be arrested for drunkenness.
Lady, don't be too hard on him, please. Maybe he didn't drink before his wife left him.
Of course, you'd stick up for him. You're drunk, too.
The bus comes to a stop, and I get off fast. I keep seeing the drunk. It could be me, Jim Powers, a couple of years from now, talking to my boy through a fence. I know I can't go on the way I am, and I don't know what to do. I start walking, trying to think. I pass by a church, and the thought strikes me that it's been quite a long time since I've been inside a church. So, I go inside this one. I try to tell God how badly I need an answer. Then the idea comes to me that Lucille and I would still be together if we had asked God to help us be faithful to those promises that are too tough for just ordinary human beings to handle alone. When I come out of the church, I call up my wife.
Oh, Jim, how are you?
Fine. How are you?
Fine.
How's Jimmy?
Oh, he's fine.
Lucille.
Yes?
Lucille, I'd kind of like to talk to you.
What about?
Oh, a lot of things. Look, will you have dinner with me tonight?
Well, all right, Jim.
That's how I happen to be keeping a date with my wife. We're trying to start all over again, and it's slow. Because we buried our love so deep, it's a long time coming up out of the grave. We're not afraid of each other now. We're afraid to trust ourselves. Maybe that's a good sign. It means we finally learned that the only way we can keep faith with each other is to put our trust in God.
After the victories of Julius and Augustus Caesar, the entire Western world was enslaved by imperial Rome, from the British Isles to the lands beyond the Danube, from the deserts of Africa to the borders of India. By Roman mandate, Herod the Great ruled Palestine. His tyrannies drove thousands of desperate families to voluntary exile in Cyprus, Syria, and Egypt. Among them, Joseph bar Jacob, carpenter, his wife Mary, and their infant son. But Egypt was only a refuge to Joseph, not his beloved homeland. And when an angel appeared to him in a dream, saying that those who would destroy the child were dead, his thoughts were constantly on the land of Israel.
It's a fine bit of work. You have a hand with tools.
A man should do well the thing he likes to do.
Still, I'm surprised to find a craftsman of such skill in so small a village. You should go to Alexandria. I could give you references to a man there who makes fine furniture.
Thank you. You're very kind. There. It's finished. And stronger than before. Thank you.
And if you should change your mind about going to the city...
When I leave here, it shall be to return to my homeland.
Israel?
Israel.
I see. I dare say a lot of Egypt's guests will be heading northward now.
Well, why do you say now?
King Herod is dead. Over a month ago.
Are you certain?
Well, beyond doubt. Caesar Augustus already has confirmed Archelaus to be ethnarch.
Of Israel?
No, just Judea, Idumea, and Samaria.
Thank you. Thank you for telling us.
I'll send my slaves round this evening for the bench. And good fortune.
We can go back now, can't we?
Archelaus is Herod's son.
But his power doesn't reach to Galilee.
No, not to Galilee. You've missed it, too.
It will be good to see Nazareth again.
And they returned into Galilee, to their own city, Nazareth. And the child grew, and the favor of God was upon him.
Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who hast sanctified us by thy commandments, and commanded us to kindle the Sabbath lights. May our home be consecrated, O God, by thy light.
Mother?
Yes, dear.
What is it you touch?
It is the mezuzah, my son. This is the name of the Lord Jehovah, whom we love. And all of our people who love the Lord have a mezuzah by their doors. Inside are written words of the Lord. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words shall be in thine heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children. And thou shalt write them upon the posts in thy house. The mezuzah reminds us that God is always with us. In our home and outside it, too.
And Moses spake in the ears of all the congregation of Israel the words of this song until they were ended.
Give ear, O ye heavens, and I will speak, and hear, O earth, the words of my mouth.
My doctrine shall drop as the rain. My speech shall distill as the dew, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and the showers upon the grass.
Because I will publish the name of the Lord. Ascribe thee greatness unto our God.
He is the rock. His work is perfect. For all his ways are judgment. A God of truth and without iniquity. Just and right is he. You may pass the study scrolls, my sons. As you know, there will be no school tomorrow, or until after the week of the Passover feast. During that time, think well upon all you have learned, especially those of you who will travel to the great temple for your bar mitzvah. When you are questioned by the scribes at the great temple, do not be afraid. You have learned, and you have learned well. I know you will be a credit to Nazareth. My prayers will be with you. May the Lord watch between me and thee, while we are absent one from the other.
And his parents went to Jerusalem every year at the feast of the Passover. And when he was 12 years old, they went up according to custom. And when the feast was ended, they started upon their return journey. And toward the end of the first day, they came to the place where the others from Nazareth had chosen to rest for the night.
This looks like a good spot.
I don't see him anywhere.
Oh, he's likely wading in the brook with the other boys.
It's not like him to be gone all day.
It's like all boys on the way home from their bar mitzvah. Why, I remember the trip home from mine. My parents caught hardly a glimpse of me till they reached the front door of their home. Now, don't you worry. As soon as I've tethered friend Goliath, I'll go look for the boy.
No, sir. We haven't seen him since we left Jerusalem.
Are you certain?
Yes, sir. We thought he was with you.
We'll return to the city. If he comes back while we're gone, tell him to wait here.
And they returned to Jerusalem seeking him. And they found him in the temple among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers.
My son, my son. Why have you treated us so? Behold, your father and I have been looking for you anxiously.
How is it that you have sought me? Did you not know that I must be in my father's house?
And he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. And his mother kept all these things in her heart. And Jesus increased in wisdom and stature, and in favor with God and man. The years passed on. In faraway Rome, the Emperor Augustus died, and Tiberius assumed the title of Caesar. Archelaus was deposed and replaced by his brother Herod Antipas. Then, in the 15th year of Tiberius' reign, a new governor was sent to Caesarea, capital city of the Palestinian territory.
Hear ye, to all the subjects of Palestine.
citizens, freemen, and slaves, by order of His Excellency Tiberius Claudius Nero, Caesar of the Imperial Empire, His honored governor of the lands of Judea, Samaria, Sinai, and Philistia, Valerius Gratus, has been recalled to other duties. By order of His Excellency Tiberius Claudius Nero, Caesar of the Imperial Empire, the new governor, procurator in command, as of this day, shall be the Honorable Pontius Pilate. Hear and obey.
And here is the most valuable item in the treasury.
Jewels?
Rare jewels. The only ones of their kind. Records of our private agreements with those of the conquered who have found it profitable to collaborate with us, either secretly or openly.
A traitor's bribeless.
No, a bit more. In addition to the separate agreements, I've added a note on each man, whether he can be trusted and how far, what pressures can be used to keep each one in line, word-for-word transcripts of every verbal amendment taken down by hidden scribes so the bribe takers have no idea their promises are a matter of record. I know. When Annus Rufus opened that casket for me, I thought it was a waste of effort, too. But we're not dealing with Gauls or Celts or Carthaginians here. We're forced to deal with Asiatics, men with Oriental minds, men who scheme and twist and maneuver until black seems white and your simplest statement becomes a grant of power. I assume your orders are the same as mine have been. Increase the grain shipments, collect the taxes, and keep the peace over a province of 500,000 square stadia with one undermanned legion.
I've been promised fresh troops to bring the legion up to strength.
5 legions couldn't keep the peace here, no, nor 10, without the help these scrolls represent. The Sheikh al-Bouquet, the Tetrarch Herod Antipas, the High Priest Caiaphas.
Jackals, skulking the Roman lion for his leaving.
But scavengers, we've chosen to be kings of all the jackals, so the lion may gorge in peace. I suggest we read through them together. I guarantee you, it'll be time well spent.
Concessions on their religious taxes, concessions on their laws, concessions on what they call graven images. Oh, you'd have thought we were the vanquished and they were the conquerors. Don't paw me. Get out. Go. Oh. Promises, amendments, revisions. I thought we'd be unrolling scrolls all night.
It won't be so bad after you get used to it. 6 months from now.
I'll never get used to mealy-mouthed haggling, and I don't intend to. I'll have a talk with this Caiaphas when we get to Jerusalem.
With his beard in your hand and your sword at his throat.
It's a very persuasive argument.
For a centurion subjecting a village, but hardly befitting for the governor of a province.
You married a soldier. Can't expect him to turn statesman overnight.
Tiberius told you this post required a diplomat as well as a soldier.
It was diplomats who made the mess.
At least you can give diplomacy a chance.
Diplomacy is a fancy scabbard, useless without a sword.
But without the protection of the scabbard, the sword can dull and rust.
Not if it's kept in use. These jackals have bathed the moon so long they believe it rises and sets at their own command. Well, I'll soon put an end to that. I'll teach them who their master really is.
But 3 days' journey to the east, the people of Israel were already gathering to hear a man tell of a higher power than Pilate, or of Rome itself. An intense man come from the wilderness to the banks of the Jordan. A man fearing neither Tiberius nor Herod, but with the courage to proclaim,
"There is but one authority, and that is Jehovah, the Almighty God. Give witness to him. Repent your sins. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It was written by the prophets. Prepare the way of the Lord. Make his paths straight. Now I say to you, the day of the coming is close upon you. Woe unto those who are unprepared. Let each man look into his own heart, consult his soul, and find his own answer. Hear this warning, you who are proud in your robes of self-righteousness. Take heed those who are arrogant with the strength and carelessness of youth. Think carefully, you who are devout in semblance only, but sinful within your hearts. The day is coming when you will stand alone before his judgment. On that day there will be neither slave nor master, neither subject nor king. In his eyes there will be only the worthy and the unworthy. Hear me, children of Israel, the time is short and the wickedness of our land is great. The 7 deadly sins rage through Palestine like a plague, from the humblest hut to the greatest palaces. Even in the halls of the mighty there is no light.
Do you dare to speak against the Tetrarch?
I speak against sin, be it Herod's or any man's.
Not yet.
But even if a man has sinned as grievously as Herod, or flaunted an evil life, as has this woman he calls a wife, there is still time to repent, to be cleansed by the waters of baptism.
When the new governor came up to Jerusalem, he was a guest at the palace of Herod Antipas.
Apologies, Excellency, if I intrude upon a private meditation.
No, I'm no soul-searching philosopher. I came out for fresh air, not inspiration. I'm not accustomed to the strength of your native wine.
One of the few passable products of this miserable land. Wine, dates, and taxes. That's about all Israel has that's worth the taking.
Strange. That her people love her so much, and her king so little.
Her people don't know better. They haven't traveled. I was raised and educated in Rome. After a man has lived at the very hub of the world, savored the pleasures to be had there, believe me, Excellency, I am as much a Roman at heart as you are.
Indeed.
Being loyal to the Empire, knowing the problems here as I do, it's been bitter experience to me to see previous governors taken in by grasping and greedy men like Annas and Caiaphas, men with only their own interests at heart, not Rome's. As a matter of fact, I've written several long letters to Tiberius. Perhaps he discussed them with you.
He mentioned them.
Your background, Excellency, has been that of a soldier. I've always found soldiers to be practical men. Shall we be practical?
By all means.
Good. Your instructions are to increase the taxes, correct? No, I haven't set spies on you. I know Tiberius. Unfortunately, the Jewish religion does not permit its people to work upon the Sabbath. That leaves only 6 days of the week for labor. It takes all the produce of one for a peasant to feed his family and himself, of another for the rent of his land, of 2 more to pay his taxes to Rome. And all he can earn on the rest to meet the temple tithes demanded by Caiaphas. So, unless Your Excellency can find a way to add another day to the week.
You're recommending that I order Caiaphas to lower the temple tithes?
Only so much water can be poured from a bucket. If more goes to the cow, the donkey must get less. When my father ruled all Palestine for Rome, there was plenty for Caesar and sufficient for the Herodian house. Now these upstarts get rich. Mere tools of men who are not even Romans or of royal blood, whilst Tiberius is denied his due, and my income is a mere fraction of my father's. There is only one thing to do, a very simple thing.
To depose Caiaphas?
Of course. To confiscate his fortune in Caesar's name, to force his successor to cut the temple ties to the bone,
and give my backing to the Herodian line.
I am at your command, Your Excellency.
Such a splendid plan. It's a pity it won't work.
Oh, but it will. Why?
Just because of one thing. You.
Your Excellency.
You are half the man your father was, but you're not. You're a sot, Herodantus. A lecher, a liar, and a fool. You had a country at your feet and the Roman Empire at your back, and you threw it away. You married a sheikh's daughter to appease your Arab subjects and cast her out and alienated them forever. And then, to make a bad mess worse, you took your brother's wife in violation of the Jewish codes and turned the rest of your people against you.
Mistakes, I admit it. But every man makes a few mistakes.
But only a fool would compound them. And I've no time for fools.
Give me another chance, Your Excellency. That's all I ask.
While your subjects jeer at you openly, and self-styled prophets shout your shame.
That man, he's mad, demented. He'll be forgotten in a week, gone to the hills. It might be disastrous to take action against him now. The people still believe in him. He's a mere nothing, a mosquito, a gadfly. He won't be heard of in more than one province. But about this other matter,
show me that you can rule a province. Then ask me to let you reign over a kingdom.
But the voice of John was not stilled. Instead, his message spread through all the lands of Palestine.
There are no maybes in what he says, not him. Repent, come to baptism, or be lost forever. No matter what you are, king, scribe, or common man, it's one thing or the other, and right away. You should have seen him face up to a bunch of Pharisees there. Brood of vipers, he called them. Bear fruits befitting repentance, he told them. Don't just go around saying, Abraham is our father. God can raise children from stones. You should have heard the crowd there. Moaning, some of them, dropping to their knees and praying, streaming toward him right out into the river. And then he looked at all of us. But it seemed like he was looking right at me. I went over to him and he baptized me. And maybe 100 others, too. And then he began to talk to all of us again. I will baptize you with water, he said. But he who is mightier than I is coming, the thongs of whose sandals I am not fit to untie. He will baptize you with the Holy Spirit and with fire.
Here. This work is done.
And well done, my friend. If you get a chance, you should go hear this fellow John the Baptist.
I will.
My son, will you be gone for long?
It will be as the Lord wishes.
Open the ears of thy children, O Lord. Open their hearts to repentance. Hear their confessions as they come forward. Grant them redemption from thy wrath. Give them the gift of thy forgiveness. Thou who art all-powerful, all-knowing, almighty. Come. Step forward in the name of the Lord thy God. Come. Behold, the Lamb of God. I need to be baptized by you. Why do you come to me?
Let it be so now. For thus it is fitting for us to fulfill all righteousness.
And Jesus, filled by the Holy Spirit, was led into the wilderness.
Unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation. The eternal light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This program comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's play, adapted for radio by Milton Wayne, is based on a story entitled The Wise Men of Chelm, written by Dr. Solomon Simon. Roger de Koven is the narrator. Once on the large maps of the world there was marked a small town, the town of Chelm, for which fact let us be thankful, for if the city of Chelm and its inhabitants had never existed, surely for the high esteem in which we hold ourselves, someone would have had to invent it. And the time taken for such invention might have deprived the world of such phrases as double-entry bookkeeping, the can opener, or even perhaps radio itself. But fortunately for us, the town of Chelm once did exist, and its citizens were known throughout all the civilized world as the Wise Men of Chelm.
The Wise Men of Chelm? Sure, I've heard of them. But some people say that the Wise Men of Chelm are fools.
Don't you believe it? Not for a minute.
They're no fools. It's just that foolish things are always happening to them, as we shall see.
Chelmites, after 7 days and 7 nights of uninterrupted thinking, we have come to a decision. No longer will we suffer a cold, bitter winter with no firewood to warm our homes.
Oh, that's wonderful. So you hear, Chelmites. A way has been found. Newell Gimple, tell us at once, what is the plan?
This very spring, we shall build a high brick wall all around the town. And when winter comes, it will keep out the cold.
A brilliant plan. It dazzles like a diamond in the sunlight.
Amazing. No longer need any Chelmite fear the thieves will pick the lock on his door and steal his goods.
True. On the 7th night of the 7th day of discussion, we have found a plan.
All Chelmites will remove their doors and carry them about on their backs. Thus no thief will be able to break the lock and enter.
The little town of Chelm lay deep in the forests of Poland, quite hidden from all the world. The men who lived there had long beards and curly side locks around their ears. They wore long, shiny black coats that reached to their ankles and striped prayer shawls with thick fringes, just like Jews all over that part of the world at that time, except that there was something peculiar about the worthy citizens of Chelm, something odd about the way they did things. Truth to tell, they weren't really quite like other people.
There's nothing much to ponder about. They're fools, just plain fools. But what is truly remarkable is how so many fools all came together in one little town.
And therein, too, lie several tales. But the most authentic concerns a very minor angel known as Michael the Messenger.
It's my fault that it happened many, many years ago. I was carrying a sack full of foolish souls back to heaven for repairs, and I lost my way in a terrible storm, and I flew over Chelm. The town, as you know, lies in a valley completely surrounded by high mountains. Well, on the topmost peak of the highest mountain stood a tall, pointed tree. Suddenly, as I struggled through the storm, the bottom of the sack caught and tore on the treetop. And alas, all the poor, damaged souls spilled out of the ripped sack, rolled down the mountainside into Chelm. And there they stayed from that day on.
Now, it is written in the town records of Chelm that the citizens built a mill on top of a mountain where there was no water. And when they found the mill did not work for some mysterious reason, they dismantled the mill. Thus, the Chelmites lost their opportunity to become wealthy, and instead became poor as blind beggars. And one day, little Beryl the beetle leaned against an empty herring barrel in the town square and poured forth his misery to Gimple, the town's leading citizen.
The Almighty has forgotten us, Gimple. It's just as if we didn't exist.
You're a fool, Val. Isn't it well known that God provides the weaver with thread and the beggar with bread?
But all we have is potatoes. Sunday and Monday, potatoes. And on Tuesday and Wednesday, more potatoes. On Thursday and Friday, you eat potatoes again.
Ah, but on the Sabbath.
Then, for a change, we eat potato pudding. For weeks, I've been dreaming.
Of what?
Of the same thing you and all Chelmites dream. Of a piece of herring.
A piece of herring and a slab of fresh flat bread.
Stop, Dimple. Please stop.
We shall have it, Beetle.
Gimple, tell me, are you ill?
The people of Chelm shall have herring.
Please, Gimple, come out of the sun. Lie down.
Stop pulling at me. Run to Mottle the mayor.
Please, I'm too hungry to run.
Tell him to call a town meeting at once. Tell him I have a plan. Chelmites, I have a plan. Let's buy 5 barrels of salted red herring and 5 barrels of salted white herring. Then we'll dump the herring into the Chelm River so that they can increase and multiply as do all God's creatures.
A marvelous idea, marvelous! Wait till you hear it all. Next year we'll hire some fishermen who'll catch as many herring as we want. But we'll be smart. We'll make sure to leave a few fish in the river to increase and multiply again. In this way, we can have herring forever.
An inspiration truly worthy of the foremost citizen of Chelm.
Such beautiful herring. It broke my heart to throw them into the river. The smell is driving me crazy. Gimple, how long must we wait for the increasing and multiplying?
Pena, the philosopher, has studied these matters. He says we're to wait a year and a day.
So long?
A year and a day from now, the fishermen will come with their nets. And every Chelmite will then have herring 3 times a day.
How can I stand it? A whole year and a day.
Gimple! Wake up! Gimple! Gimple! Muddlehead, what do you want?
I kept a record. It's a year and a day. I'm famished for a piece of herring. I couldn't sleep a wink. Come.
I know. Tomorrow, Beryl. We'll wait one more day for good measure. And tomorrow the fishermen will cast their nets. Quickly! Come in now, quickly! Throw in the net.
The nets are up!
Well, fishermen, let's see the catch.
Here, look!
What is it?
Nothing. A few bits of weed and a little mud. Nothing.
Throw out the nets again. The fish must be there.
An old torn boot. Nothing yet that would be very tasty with onion.
Throw the nets again.
Nothing.
The sun will soon be down. Hurry. Throw the nets again. Quickly, haul it up on the beach. Stand back. stand back, everybody. Stand back. Stand back.
There it is. There it is. Take a look.
Heavenly Father, those tremendous claws.
We've dragged up a monster.
No, a lobster, the biggest we've ever caught.
Gimple, what's the matter? You look as if you're going to burst.
Look, Helmut. Look there at your culprit. There is the thief. Look closely at this ugly, unclean monster, gorged to bursting with the blood of our helpless Harry. When the philosopher Wise would we wait?
Who ever heard of tearing a lobster apart? One speaks of tearing a herring apart, but never a lobster.
Then what shall we do with the thief?
How shall we punish it?
Yes, how shall we punish it? Horrible is the crime. Horrible. And horrible shall be the punishment. What is more frightful death than drowning? In the time of Noah, when God decided to punish the whole wicked world, did he not send a flood upon it? Yes, a terrible, terrible flood. Therefore, let this fiendish glutton be drowned.
Senior the philosopher, in recognition of your wise verdict, you may have the honor of seizing the lobster and throwing it into the deepest part of the river.
Thank you.
Careful, Pina, it may bite.
Thus do the Helmites take revenge on the greedy murderer of their herring.
It was shortly after the Great Moon disaster, when the Helmites attempted to capture that celestial body in a barrel, that they began to build their new synagogue. They worked with zeal, and in no time at all the walls were up, and there was the roof, its bright red shingles proudly gleaming in the sun. So far, so good. No quarrels, not even a cross word. That is sad to relate. Until it came to laying the floor. Then the fur began to fly. Helm was split in two, those in favor of smooth boards and those against. Never was there such a commotion in heaven.
This is Helm, not Chedlitz or some other town full of simpletons.
True, a most serious matter.
When the day of fasting, when Yom Kippur comes.
A most solemn day, most solemn.
On that day, Jews remove their shoes in the synagogue and pray in their stocking feet. Now, if the floorboards were not plain smooth, some Helmite might get a splinter in his foot. A splinter leads to a sore foot. A sore foot may cause one to fall and break his neck. Helmite, do you want a broken neck?
Who wants a broken neck? Listen, Helmite! Listen to me! True, there is some danger if the boards are not planed, but there is even greater peril if the boards are too smooth. For on Simchas Torah, which is a very joyous holiday...
A most joyous holiday. We finished reading the Torah and started again. Most joyous.
On that day, Jews dance in the synagogue with the Holy Torah in their arms. On a planed floor, they'd naturally slip and fall. Then all of Chelm would have to fast and mourn for 40 days and 40 nights because the Holy Torah had been dropped. A calamity.
The matter was referred to a meeting of the town's leading minds, and for 7 days and 7 nights they thought about it and thought about it. And finally, on the 7th night of the 7th day, a Helmite solution was announced by Mottel the mayor.
The boards must indeed be smooth because the danger of splinters on Yom Kippur is great. But let only one side be planed. Then lay the smooth, plain side face downward with the rough side up, so that when the Helmites dance on Simchas Torah, they won't slip and fall with the Holy Torah in their arms.
was done. The new synagogue was completed, and all Chelm celebrated. They danced and sang, ate and drank, and only one person was sad, Muddle the mayor.
What's the matter, Mayor Muddle? Why the long face?
Oh, Beryl. The synagogue is too beautiful.
Too beautiful? You remind me of the bridegroom who complained that his bride was too pretty.
Gimple, did you hear what this fool just said?
What did I say that was bad?
Didn't it ever occur to you that the synagogue's so beautiful, it might be stolen?
Oh, of course. The mayor is right. The danger is very serious. Beryl, tomorrow morning, before anything else, take a brush and paint Ze Hashu Sheyochle Helm in huge letters on the front wall of the synagogue.
What do those words mean, Gimple?
This synagogue belongs to Helm.
Now, that's a brilliant idea, Gimple. Let them steal it now. What can they do with it? Wherever they take it, everyone will know that it's stolen goods.
Some years passed. Things were going well in Chelm. The crops were plentiful and the bins were bursting with grain. Suddenly now there was too much of everything. The Chelmites were worried.
Oh, we've never had this kind of a problem before.
Oh, something has to be done.
Let's call a town meeting.
For 7 days and 7 nights they thrashed the matter around, and Pinya the philosopher pondered and pondered. He took off his shoes and pondered some more, and no solution came forth but a small idea.
Whereas Chelm never suffered from prosperity before the miller came to our town, and whereas we do suffer now, therefore let it be concluded that we demand an explanation from the miller.
Beryl, run and fetch the miller at once. Well, Miller, what is your answer to this charge?
Chelmites, I have a suggestion. Why don't you go into business?
Business? What did you mean, business?
What does it mean, this going into business?
Going into business means buying and selling.
Listen to him. If we buy something, naturally we need it for ourselves. So why should we sell it?
Well, buy things that you don't need.
Why should we buy things we don't need? Are you crazy? Are you from Shedlet?
Let me explain. Buy things you yourselves don't need and sell them to the farmers who pass through Chelm.
Oh, so.
Then how does it work?
Well, the idea is to buy cheap and sell dear. For example, you buy a pair of boots for 5 gulden and sell it for 6 gulden.
A gulden for nothing. Did you hear that?
One neither sows nor plows nor does anything, and yet one gets a gulden. Why? Well, that's the way business is done.
Well, then, if that's all there is to business, maybe we ought to try it.
Thus business came to Chelm, and with it the rich got richer and the poor got worries. And as always happens, the poor came to be jealous of the rich, and the rich came to fear the poor. That was the way of the world, and even Chelm was no exception. Even in the synagogue, the wealthy would be seated in their own pews at the east wall near the Holy Ark and the pulpit, while the poor would stand squeezed together at the rear near the stove and alongside the wash basin. Finally, one hot summer Sabbath, the long-suffering poor stopped the services and appealed to the rabbi.
We claim our ancient right to interrupt the services and to prevent the Torah reading until our wrongs are righted.
What are your wrongs, my people?
Rabbi, why do the rich live on milk and honey while we live on air?
Why do the rich wear Sabbath clothes on weekdays while we wear weekday clothes on the Sabbath?
Rabbi, there is no justice in hell.
True, my children. There is no justice in Chelm. But it must be somewhere. For does not the Torah say, justice
justice let us pursue. It must have slipped away to some other place while we were doing business. Let us therefore send 2 messengers out into the world to pursue justice and bring it back to Helm. Enough for rich and poor alike.
And so the 2 messengers set out into the world to pursue justice. Wherever they went, they would ask,
"Good people, can you tell us where to buy a little justice?"
And everywhere they were given the same reply.
"No use looking. We, too, lack that little item. If we knew where to get some, we'd sell the shirts off our backs."
The Helmites rode on. They rode and rode until they came to Warsaw. There a pair of sharp rogues caught sight of the country yokels and approached them.
Friends, how would you like to get a fine bargain? We can sell you the Vistula Bridge cheap or the Saxony Gardens. Or perhaps you're interested in the Warsaw Synagogue.
No, good folks. We don't want the bridge or the gardens. And as for the synagogue, we have a fine new one of our own in Helm.
Oh, so you're from Helm?
Yes, we're Helmites.
And what is it then that 2 such wise men from Helm seek in Warsaw?
Justice is what we seek. We've traveled far and wide and cannot find a crumb of justice to save our lives. Look no further, Helmites. Your search is ended. We can sell you as much justice as you want.
Can you sell us a whole barrelful?
Well, justice, as you know, is a very expensive article. But if you can afford it, we'll manage to get you a barrelful.
Will 2,000 gold pieces be enough? Is that all you have?
That's every kopeck.
Then it'll have to do. After all, we can't let you go back to Helm without justice. Come with us. Here it is. Your barrel full of justice.
Thank you.
Make sure not to jostle the barrel on the way. The cover might fly off and some of the treasure might be spilled. And you know how hard it is to get justice these days.
You don't have to tell us that. Why, we'll carry it like a steaming bowl of delicious chicken soup.
The messengers finally returned, and there was great rejoicing in Helm. After elaborate ceremonies in the town square, Mottle the mayor broke the seals, loosened the nails, and pried open the barrel cover while all of Helm crowded around, eager to see what the justice of the world looked like. As he lifted the cover, Mottle the mayor sprang back in horror.
Ah! It smells of rotten fish. Alas, the justice is spoiled.
The justice of the world smells bad. Take heed, O you Helmites who complain of the justice of Helm. There, that's the kind of justice you have in the rest of the world.
Poor people of Helm, listen to me. If there is no justice in Helm, then even the justice of the world has been spoiled. And it doesn't matter what we do. We can take whatever we must.
They called the town meeting immediately, and there was talking and thinking and thinking and talking for 7 days and 7 nights. And at last they came to a brilliant compromise.
From this day on, whenever an ox is slaughtered, let the entire animal consist only of choicest parts. Let all parts be alike. Then there'll be no difference which part one buys. Likewise, let it be known to all that the entire synagogue is the east wall and the center pews. Then, to be sure, there will be no difference where a person sits. But since it happens that the rich may be foolish enough to wish to pay more in order to sit at the former east wall, likewise, since they may desire to pay more for the former fine cuts of meat, then let them be welcome to their foolishness.
And so it was done. Yes, in Chelm times had changed, and everything was just as before. For many years, the town of Chelm stood unique in the world. Then a terrible fire burned the synagogue and the town's dwellings to the ground, and the rabbi called his flock from their mourning.
My children, the Lord works in mysterious ways his wonders to perform. This is a sign from on high. Like the destruction of Jerusalem in ancient times, the destruction of Chelm is a sign that we must go out into the world and spread the wisdom that is our heritage and our tradition. Like our forefathers of old, let us go forth with courage in our hearts to fulfill our destiny.
Not with sorrow and not with tears, but proudly, the Chelmites went forth and dispersed over the face of the earth. They mingled with all the peoples of the world and dutifully spread the wisdom that was once the pride of Chelm alone. And so, dear listener, if you should sometimes discover a bit of the Chelmite in yourself, you'll know the reason why.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The eternal light.
The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This program is brought to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today is Milton Wayne's folktale adaptation, The Wandering of the Little Melody. Featured as Reb Doodler, the narrator is Alexander Scourby.
The modest phrases you just heard, played and sung, introduce the modest hero of our story. For all stories, great or little, and no matter what they tell of, all stories have a hero. Our story, then, is no exception. There, speaking in its own person, is the hero of our story. For the hero of our story is a melody. But stories need words, even if only a few. And since our hero is wordless, I, your humble servant, Dudele, the red-bearded, Chassid in the city of Talna in the province of Kiev, I shall attempt to supply the words. To make a beginning, it was during the visit to my home of that pious man, Reb Naphtali, a Polish Chassid.
To have pride in one's birth city is understandable, Reb Dudele.
Well, pride is also merited.
And what is there so remarkably special about the songs you sing here in the city of Talna?
Ah, Reb Naphtali, my friend, you Hasidim of Poland are as wise and as pious as men anywhere in the world.
You do us much honor.
Yet it is a sad but demonstrable truth that you Polish Hasidim do not know how to sing.
So? Or might it be that the ears of Talna are not sensitive enough to capture our melodies?
Why should we quarrel with the world's judgment? Here in the province of Kiev, here is where they sing. Among us, there's not a house without a fiddle or a clarinet.
Yet to have a bird in a cage does not mean that the owner possesses the bird's song.
True. But you should hear the sounds that come from our town.
Sounds?
Sounds.
What sounds do you mean? Sounds of a good wife chopping fish in a wooden bowl? The sounds of the Rebbe blowing his nose in Cheder? The sounds of an old wagon on a frozen road? Do you mean those sounds?
Yes, if the sounds join into a melody. For just as separate stones are piled one on top of another and made into a house, so the melody is no longer a combination of sounds. It is now a living body with a soul, and the soul is the heart of man. His love, his anger, his grace, his pity, his mercy. And like all living things, a melody lives and dies and passes away from the world and is forgotten. But sometimes the melody that was thought dead comes to life again. The melody returns and awakens, and a new feeling, a new soul is put into it by him who sings or plays it, and he renews its youth. And thus the cycle goes on, over and over again. A new creation, a new melody. But enough of theorizing. There's a story that can speak much better than I. It is the story of the wandering of a melody. Now, in the city of Makhmovka, not far from Berdichev, there was a group of fine musicians.
But the best of all of us is that little man Chaim. He is a plain Jew with a wife and children and very poor. But he's really an excellent klezmer.
Good composer, I take it.
No, he's not a composer. That is, he can't create new tunes. But he has a very great special talent. Very great.
And in what does this great talent lie?
In stories, in explaining a melody. Actually, he takes a melody and translates it into the human tongue. He has such a talent that it frightens me. Look at him there, how small and frail he is. But when he puts the clarinet to his lips, he's a different man. His long eyebrows straighten, his eyes glisten, his face shines. You begin to feel that he himself is not here, that his soul has gone up to heaven.
But when he comes back to earth, what does he do?
He waits.
Oh? What for?
For a wedding of a rich couple. And on that expectation, he lives on credit.
And after such a rich wedding?
He pays all his bills and goes on living on credit.
What now, Reb Chaim?
A pair of shoes, please, Reb Moshe.
On credit.
Only a very small pair for my youngest. On credit.
And what are you waiting for these days?
Didn't you hear? A wedding which will take place, with the help of God, in the home of the widow of Beryl Katzner.
Beryl's widow? So soon?
No, the daughter, Hannah. It would be a very big wedding.
Why not? That heart of stone left almost $500,000.
More than $500,000, they say.
So more than $500,000.
Oh, and all his life he begrudged even the piece of bread he ate and the water he drank. He lived poor and was buried rich. He'd stand up in his grave if he knew they were spending his money for a wedding.
I haven't been home all day. The shoes, Reb Moshe.
The shoes. Oh, yes. You may have the shoes on credit.
Thank you.
And for such a rich wedding, perhaps even a new pair of shoes for yourself, Reb Chaim.
Esther, please don't cry. Look, 2 pairs of shoes I got for Moshe. 1 pair for the child and 1 for you. Look, Esther.
You must take them back. I only can't have them.
But why not? What happened?
That's Velvel.
Velvel? What is there to ask Velvel?
I just heard.
Oh, Velvel. I didn't see you when I came in. What did you hear?
The bad news.
What bad news? Tell me what.
Believe me, it was like thunder struck me when I heard.
What? What did you hear?
We are not going to play at the wedding.
Oh?
The widow Katzner is hiring Yossel from Berdice.
Yossel is a good musician. He was once my teacher, but why should they send for him when we're already here?
Because she says people are coming to the wedding from the big city of Kiev. And besides...
Well, what else is there? Tell me, what else?
Your clarinet and my fiddle aren't enough. Because Yossel has promised, especially for the wedding, to write a new melody.
When they heard the news, it was like thunder struck every person in that little town. For everyone loved Reb Chaim, and they were all proud of his playing. Like a storm, they descended upon the house of the widow Katzner, and for hours they protested the injustice to Reb Chaim. To all of them.
This must be settled. Now, once and for all, this must be settled.
Please, I'm a poor widow, alone in this world. Why do you begrudge me the joy of seeing my only daughter married?
We all wish you long life and happiness. But why did you hire Yossel from Berdice instead of our own Reb Chaim?
I told you, Reb Labe. The guests coming from Kiev.
Our Reb Chaim would not put you to shame if your guests came from Vienna or Budapest or London even.
But look, I have told you before. Reb Chaim is as dear to me as my own brother would be. But he can't compose a tune.
1,000 tunes he has in his clarinet, and she needs still a new one.
Not for myself, but for my husband. May he rest in peace.
May he rest in peace. But you still don't understand.
It's for his memory that Yossel promised to write a new tune for the prayer in memory of the dead, El Mole Rachamim, Father of compassion and mercy.
But it isn't a question of a choice, a new tune or Reb Chaim. You can have both.
Both? How? How can I have both?
Reb Chaim will go to Berdice, to this same Yossel who used to be his teacher. And he will ask Yossel for a new tune. And he will bring it back here to be chanted at the wedding. Good. As we all know, Reb Chaim is a very poor man. Now, if you give him the money for the journey, he will go.
So I will give him the money.
Reb Chaim went to Berdichev. But nothing comes easy to the poor. Otherwise, perhaps, there would be no poor. And when Reb Chaim arrived in Berdichev, he found that Yossel had just left to play in the city of Talna. Now, what could he do? He couldn't return home without a melody, for he promised on his word of honor to bring back one of Yossel's. And to go on to Talna was impossible, for he'd given most of the travel money to his wife. And so Reb Chaim walked sadly about the streets of Berdichev.
And so, Reb Chaim, what happened then?
Huh? What, Velvel?
I said, what happened then?
Oh, forgive me. Where was I?
You were walking about the streets of Berdichev.
Oh, yes. And there, suddenly I saw a woman. She was dressed in the beautiful clothes of the Sabbath. And in her hand she carried a large silver plate. Behind the woman came a procession of musicians. And the woman sang to the tune the musicians played.
And the silver plate, what was that for?
To catch the coins the people were throwing.
Oh.
Every time she caught a coin, she cried, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. For this was a collection for a poor girl of the town who wanted to get married, but didn't have the money for a wedding.
It was a good deed.
They are good people.
But the melody you were supposed to get from Yossel, where is it?
Here, in my head.
But where did you get it?
That Mazel Tov melody the woman sang and the musicians played, that was one of Reb Yossel's. When I heard it, my eyes began to glow like hot coals. Hand me your fiddle. I'll show you. A melody like I'd never heard in my life. Laughs and cries in one breath. Pain, joy, fear, and hope. The pouring out of the soul. Everything in the same melody. And so it goes on. We'll have it ready for the wedding tomorrow night. Well, what do you think?
It is everything you have said, but it's not what the widow wants.
Why not?
It's too happy. She wants a tune for the cantor to sing at the ceremony in memory of her husband.
That's no reason for worry, Velvet. The widow will have her tune.
So Reb Chaim took his clarinet and went off by himself. He played through the Mazel Tov tune a few times, and then the melody, which is the hero of this story, began to change. It changed into a plea to the Father of compassion and mercy. The happy melody changed and became one of short and deep sighs, of a man confessing the sins of all his life, beating his breast over every sin and entrusting his soul to the Lord of hosts. Finally, the melody became a consolation. There is a God on earth, a living and a kind God. He hath given and he hath taken. Blessed be his name. That night at the wedding, Reb Chaim played the melody on his clarinet. And the guests who came from Kiev to the marriage of the daughter of the widow Katzner had tears in their eyes, but no praise for the musician.
For whom, Reb Chaim? For whom was such a beautiful melody?
For Beryl Katzner, of course. May he rest in peace.
A golden melody for old Beryl the miser.
If he were here at the wedding, do you think his daughter would be wearing silks and jewels? Play another tune so we can all dance.
The widow sent me all the way to Bedice for this one. It's not necessary to play any other.
But we want to dance now. Do you understand?
I understand. Velvet, I'll start, then you join in.
And as was the custom, the beggars of the town, the poor, the crippled, and the blind, came to the wedding and mingled with the guests from Kiev. The beggars ate and drank and danced, and sadly shared in a joy that was not their own. And among these guests was a stranger to the town, a young and pretty child, small and thin and pale-faced. She ate little and spoke to no one, for she was very shy. She sat in a corner near the two musicians, and with her ears, her eyes, her whole being, she drank in the melody Reb Chaim was playing. And when, late in the wedding, Reb Chaim looked for her, she was gone.
Velvo, where is she? Where did she go?
Who?
That little girl with the hunger in her eyes. She sat over there in the corner.
The one that came with the beggars?
Just the child. Who is she?
Reb Shmuel said he saw her with a gypsy circus in Bedice. The scoundrels must have stolen her, and then they abandoned her.
Pity. Perhaps she will come back. Perhaps the widow Katzner will take her into her house. We must find her.
It would be a great good deed.
Come, musicians, play. We want to dance.
Are you ready, Velvo?
But that evening, the young girl left the town of Makhmovka and wandered on the road to the next town, and through the towns after that one. She was too shy to ask for alms, so she ate whatever she could find in the fields, and there, too, she slept. Until one day...
But where did she come from? Who is she?
I heard a knock on our door, and a pitiful voice, singing weakly. When I opened the door... she was lying there in a faint and burning with fever.
But who is she?
The poor child is half-starved. What could I do but take her in?
To whom can the poor turn except to others who are poor?
She's probably an orphan. More is the pity on her. Well, Jacob.
Until she gets well, we must give her a bed.
Yes, Jacob. Until she gets well.
After many days, the girl got up from the sick bed and left the home of Rezla and Jacob. She went on her way, begging for a piece of bread. She was shy and didn't speak, but stretched out her hand and sang the melody she remembered, the melody Reb Chaim played at the wedding in Makhmovka. And now the melody was a plea.
The bad people stole me, it said, and have broken my life. Please have pity on a poor orphan. Please have mercy. She wandered on thus for many days and many miles, and she came to a town where there was a very learned scholar who sat all day and studied the word and the law of God. He never went out of his house so that he would lose no time from his study. And once the girl came to his house. She knocked softly on the door and sang her melody, asking for a piece of bread. But the learned man refused to go to the door, for he would be stealing time from his study. He put his hands over his ears. But the song crept under his fingers. Then he could stand it no longer. He rose and flung open the window.
Get away, shameless one! Get away from this house!
The girl went on her way, and the scholar returned to his book. But now there was something that came between him and his book. A melody pulled his eyes from the page, and his mind from the words he sought so hard to study.
David, what shall I do?
You must forget that beggar girl. Forget her song.
Haven't I tried and tried, but it keeps ringing in my ears by day and by night.
But more than a week has gone by now.
Time alone will not wash out the sin I've committed. For I've been uncharitable toward a fellow being.
Then come to the synagogue this Sabbath. The illustrious Reb Doubletal arrived here this morning. He asked that you come and sing for him. Perhaps then you will be whole again.
I have no voice or heart to sing. And even if this were the Day of Atonement, my sin would not be removed. For only sins against God are forgiven. Sins against man are not forgiven unless the one offended has first been reconciled. All my study has been barren, for it was only for myself. And if I am only for myself, what am I? Now I must leave this house.
Oh, but please, Reb Doubletal has asked for you.
When I have found that girl, when I have brought her back to her home in kindness, then I shall return to the synagogue, and I shall sing.
Three Sabbaths passed, and on the fourth, the scholar returned to the synagogue. There he stood before the pious of the town at the time of the third meal of the Sabbath, and he sang a new melody. He sang the melody of the orphan girl. Those who listened felt their hearts grow warm. From that moment, the melody became their own. And thus, after long wandering, the little melody, which is the hero of this story, returned once again to the holiness in which it was born.
Today's radio play was a folktale adaptation written by Milton Wayne. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Cadence. Cantor David Potterman sang the liturgical music. The role of Reb Doubletal, the narrator, was played by Alexander Scourby and Reb Heim by Joe DeSantis. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations, and comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.